Hey guys, Steven here, and today I thought I'd do a follow-up to the whole Threatin story as the truth, whatever that is, has come out. So a BBC reporter has travelled all the way up to California to meet with Jared Threatin for an interview. If you didn't know anything about Jared Threatin, I did a video about this, but it was basically about a guy who was able to secure a European tour based on fake numbers, fake social media numbers and fake YouTube accounts, making comments, etc. I'll link to the video to that below. But anyway, he basically ended up playing to very few, if any, people because pretty much no tickets were sold. Before we dig into this BBC interview article, I'm just going to say, take all of this with a pinch of salt, because there's already been loads of lies and deceit. So if we're going to sit down with Jared Threatin and ask him what really happened, can we really trust it? Let's find out. But it's intriguing hearing it from the horse's mouth, so let's try and cover some questions. Okay, so the first question I've got is, where did the money come from? I suppose some of us have been wondering about how he was able to fund the tour, not only for himself, but for the band members he was also paying for. It must have cost him quite a bit, but he claimed in this article, in his interview, the tour was funded with the money they squirreled away when he was flipping burgers at a Burger King and installing court-mandated breathalyzer devices in people's cars. Now, that must have taken quite a while to save the money you'd need for travel expenses and hotels, food, etc. for a whole band. Okay, my second question. Let's see if this one gets answered. Why did he make all of this effort? It's basically the biggest question on everybody's lips since they heard about all the whole thing is why? A simple why. Why did he go to so much effort to do this? It all comes down to frustration with the music industry, believe it or not. He says, why do I need some gatekeeper to tell me that it's what they want it to be or it's good enough for them? He remembered thinking, I'm going to find my own way to do things. So I get that, really. It's really frustrating putting out your music, everyone knows this, and getting little to no response. I kind of respect him for thinking about utilising new avenues to get his music out there. That's pretty much what a lot of my videos on this channel are all about. The thing that falls flat for me is that it's not honest, and I think it'd only benefit you for the short term, and it'll basically run out of steam if people don't actually start buying tickets to see you play and not just be a gimmick. Okay, my third question is how he was able to manage to book the tour in the first place. So he says, if a band approaches a venue and says, hey, we want to play this venue, you're going to get ignored, he says. All it has to do is look like it's coming from a booking agency, doesn't even matter what booking agency, even a fake one, and then you'll get talked to and you can get things booked. Simple as that. Now, the thing with this is that these people working at these venues have bills to pay. To turn up without any tickets sold is, in my book, really disrespectful and harms the venues and could introduce stricter pay-to-play rules for other bands like us down the road. Okay, fourth question. Was this just a publicity stunt? So this was apparently the plan from the outset, to be found out and have that attention put, the spotlight on the tour and his music, like the Eye of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. He says, I manufacture my own destruction. My idea was, how am I going to fill those empty rooms? I'm going to fill them with the eyes from the digital world. That was the objective from the beginning. Now I'm torn with this. It all sounds so very convenient after the fact. It makes him come across even more manipulative, as if the whole thing was just an experiment. He goes on to mention he declined interviews by saying as soon as the questions are answered, the story's less interesting. I mean, do I need to highlight the hypocrisy here within the BBC interview with him? He even tagged Joe Rogan in one of his tweets at the time. He was probably fishing for an interview podcast there too. Fifth question, what's next? Now, it looks like we're going to get a movie by the looks of it. Of course there's going to be a movie. Any thoughts on the title, guys? I'm going to go with How One Man Fooled Himself. Leave your ideas down below if it's better than that. Probably will be better than that. We'd like to think that we've all been duped by being part of some grand social experiment. But were we really? When we found out what he tried to do, the cat was instantly out the bag, and this revelation that was all him behind the curtain faking it like the Wizard of Oz was immediately obvious. Here's the thing though, he's become famous because of this gimmick. Don't you think to sustain that fame, he's going to have to come up with another gimmick just as elaborate? And let's be honest, who's talking about the next Threatin album anyway? It kind of reminds me of the band OK Go, who make amazing music videos. Don't get me wrong, their music is really good, but for me, I only hear about them now and again because people are sharing their music videos, which I tend to think can maybe overshadow the music to a point. In the case of Threatin though, this is far less so, because there's no creative force behind the whole thing, just deceit, which doesn't get you far in my eyes anyway. But maybe that's his gimmick, the pantomime baddie. He even says there is no villain character anymore in rock music, or really in all music. I'm just trying to vilify myself. He goes on to say that he came home to literally thousands and thousands of CD sales, and he now has a cult following, and maybe he did and maybe he does, but I find it really hard to believe because he's a liar. Okay, sixth question, his one regret. So get this, his one regret after all of this is not turning up to one of his cancelled shows. He says, it's like I show up and I play for no one, and then when there's an audience, I don't play for anyone. So if at the end of the day it was all about getting eyes and ears to his music, if his whole grand scheme was getting people right directly to his music by switching off all his videos and stuff like that just so his music's playing, this part of the plan doesn't really make much sense if you're not actually going to play for people. Okay, I'll end this here, but before I do, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. The more we talk about this guy, the more we feed into the planned publicity stunt. But for me, it's interesting because if you've been following my channel for the last 12 months, you'll know that I'm really interested in how we as musicians can utilise social media and the tools that come with it for our advantage. So this whole story is really intriguing to me because it does exactly that, but just with the wrong intentions. Anyway, I'll link to the article down below, which I encourage you all to read if you're interested, as well as my previous video. So do let me know after you've read the article, maybe watch this video. Are you now a fan? Do you think you'd ever be a fan of someone with this kind of first impression? I'd love to know what you guys think. Anyway, I'll see you next time.